this thing circled us. It seemed to be climbing upwards a little bit, very high up above us, and it stopped momentarily. And we were both looking at it. All of a sudden, there was this much larger blink, and this thing, this green neon light, it made a 360-degree loop and shot directly into outer space, leaving a yellow trail behind it, like a Doppler effect. I think I heard a pop someplace. By that time, we were both looking at each other. What is this? This is not normal. And I decided to keep the correct GPS positions of the occurrence, the timing, and I've also tried to videotape it. The only piece of photographic equipment I had was an old RCA camcorder, and it was very hard to record because you're moving left, up and down the waves, and it was very hard to keep the motion. And also another thing that was difficult, that particular camcorder, you have to close one eye, and the other eye that stays open through the viewfinder, it gets blinded by the internal light from the camera. So you have to take the camera down, put it down, actually look for the object to see what you're filming, try to zero in. It was very difficult to get those recordings done. Once we made it to Hawaii, I decided to make a report of this. I walked up at a Coast Guard office, and I showed them everything I had. I showed him my notes. I told him there was something that appeared to be following us. It is extremely unusual, and he decided to report this to the main Coast Guard group command in Honolulu. I believe he faxed this message. Fax was a big thing back then, around that time. So he faxed a message, and he gave me the report. It's listed in the book, and I believe you have a copy of it too.
Absolutely, yeah.
Later. Going back to San Francisco from Hawaii is an enormous undertaking. And it's a far more difficult trip than coming to Hawaii from Mexico or California or elsewhere, because you have to climb north, good 1,100 miles, until you reach the Japanese current, Kuroshio, or North Pacific Current, which takes you straight towards California, towards Oregon, Washington.
So
Canada,
you have to climb to 38 parallel, right? 38 parallel?
Yeah, almost to 40. Between 38 and 40. Which is quite easy in a nice summerish weather, but once you climb so far, then you enter the region of the North Pacific gales, and gales can be worse than hurricanes. Hurricanes will blow you away, but it will pass. Gales can stay stationary for up to a week, 8-9 days sometimes, and they're blowing 40, sometimes 60, 70, 80 knots. Large seas build up, and what happens, wind will die, but the boat will remain among the swells. So you got the huge waves with not much stability or moving. You're just totally battered. You can be better there for 5-6 days. Yeah, we have experienced that, and it gets cold too once you climb up to 38, 40. And you also enter shipping lanes, tankers, freighters, all kinds of shipping is going from Asia towards California or Canada. So once you reach that area, it's very likely every few days or so you may see a ship. Same thing with flights. Commercial flights, they have established routes. Same like shipping. It's like being on a highway, left and right. You're going ships are keeping to the right, going to California, to the left, going back to Japan or China, wherever they're going to. So imagine that you're stuck in that maybe 30-mile radius highway, enormous tankers coming at you at full speed, and you're going 4 knots in between them, and you're praying nothing happens.
Oh my God!
You're praying to see the mosquito.
Wow. Okay, so this is now the return journey. You are now going back to San Francisco, and I think this one went for 42 days, right? And you had another series of events.
Yes, it started the first night out from Kauai. In this time we saw this orangish lights, sometimes one, sometimes two, that would come out of nowhere, fly in a straight trajectory, or start coming from different directions, past each other. Sometimes they would stop and circle each other, like a little dance, and they could continue, separate, and go back in their own directions again. And said, this is, they could have been waiting for us to leave the islands. And at this time, I was very, very determined to catch any kind of a good video footage that I could, and continue with my notes. I believe we left in June.
Okay.
I'm sorry, July.
Okay.
Yeah. So this was even more memorable than the first leg of a trip.
Because you didn't only had night sightings, but also daily sightings as well, right?
The only daytime sighting that I videotaped was closer, maybe 1 week away from arrival to California.
Ah, okay.
I videotaped an enormous object in a cloud that was later claimed to be Venus by certain astronomers.
Yeah, that's a really specific topic, and I actually checked that with astronomy software. Yes, Venus was there at that point at the sky then, but again, I think you are trying to be objective in your book as well. You are going through the variety of communications with different astronomers there, and they are all claiming also different data, different things. One was saying, that the Venus should not be visible at all. Other ones are near the horizon. So they're also messing up a lot there. So, but yeah, that's a little bit, I guess, ambiguous. It can go either way. Definitely by the astronomy software, it was at that point of sky. But at least in your book, you are trying really to be objective, and you are like seeking the answers yourself. But in the end, that will be just another video compared to entire testimony, to entire context of events. You also had other videos, and generally speaking, throughout the history and what we know from the UFO field, videos are often not complementary towards the case. Well, there are many objective reasons for that. It is hard to get them properly. Also, in your specific case, the conditions were very harsh. They were happening suddenly, accidentally. The boat was shaking. So that is why I think it is very important that we go through the deeper core of your testimony that will provide the proper context.
Yes. Before that event, there were a series of sightings as well. On a couple of occasions, and I was able to videotape the specific maneuver of a craft in which it suddenly disappears, blinks out. But only one such recording was in perfect focus for video analyst Jeffrey Sanyo to look at and to make some sense out of it. And that's another topic. But as far as our continuous sighting going back to leaving Kauai, again, there were nocturnal lights, disappearances, falling leaf maneuvers. And one night, I've noticed an object coming and flying towards us. So I wanted to do, I did something a little different. I picked up my searchlight.
Oh, this is
searchlight.
This is fascinating part. Yes.
Yeah, and I pointed towards the object, and it stopped. It stopped, and it flew back in a direction from which it came from, almost instantaneously. Half an hour later, an object is returning, and it stops directly over us. And it was almost like an explosion of light. A circle of light came out of the craft. And this was something that lasted and lasted, which gave me opportunity to dive below and get my camera, zero in on it. It was about 80 degrees overhead. I was able to capture this maneuver. It shone very brightly. It contracted back to its original shape, size, and it just nonchalantly flew away. This is clearly visible on the video. So I figured this to be some kind of a playful retaliation because I shone the light at them. They decided to show me that they have a light too. So it was almost like some kind of a little silly game going on. So that was a successful video. Then on July 12th, I believe, this is where the things take interesting turn. Again at night, about 11 something, both of us were outside in the cockpit. We noticed a reddish light kind of blinking, descending from a cloud directly in our direction, and descending, coming down.
Yeah.
We were mesmerized by this time. We were just speechless and looking at it, and it was obviously some kind of a craft, maybe several thousand feet high above us. Something, I noticed a row of red lights in the belly of the object, and there were two lights up front, almost like some kind of headlights. And it was horseshoe shaped. The engine was on, and I think I heard some kind of a droning noise as it flew over us, and he had a very boxy contraption, like a little square on its stomach. In the back of the object, there was something, again, very squarish yellow light. And this thing flew over us. Very short time afterwards, there's another object ascending and following on the same path. And this repeated itself 3 times. So 2 objects, 3 times, six overflights altogether. I've never seen anything like this. And then later on, I investigated with some experts the possibility of some kind of, if it was an aircraft, how would an aircraft find a dark boat at night, and why would it expend such energy to come and see such a boat if it could find it at all in the middle of the ocean, and for what reason? Later on, from the flash object, that happened 2 days later, 2 days after the horseshoes.
Yes.
Once the video was stopped, framed, and analyzed, it showed a similar type of craft with a boxy yellow light in the back. And which by looking at the video, you can't see what it is until it's analyzed and stopped and blown up. So it matches the sighting from 2 days earlier. And later on, I also found out that horseshoes have been observed. It's a very rare type of craft that people see, but they have been recorded. People have seen such an object. One time, even in Phoenix, I believe, in 1947, somebody took a picture.
Wow. Yeah, these are really explicit sightings. So not only lights, but you can see the contours. You can see it's a physical object, right? These are really impressive sightings. Let's talk a little bit about the cover of your book. When you are flashing towards the object and it is above your ship, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes we would flash the lights and then there would be nothing. It would be totally ignored. And on 1 or 2 occasions, I got a response.
Yeah, that is the part that I actually wanted to ask you. Yes, 4 times, right?
Yes, I started flashing 4 times, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 with my light, and this thing, you would see a light came out of nowhere, directly above you, and doing very quick 4 flash response. I'm doing 1, 2, 3, 4. This thing will go 1, 2, 3, 4, flick, 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 and disappear. So at that time, I knew I was acknowledged I knew something was happening. We might have made some mistakes. We might have seen a satellite someplace. We might have seen an airplane someplace. But these are unmistakable events. And I knew at that point that we were obviously a subject of some kind of a study, some kind of observation that was deemed important enough to be continued over such an extended time.
Yeah, and
almost 3 months.
Yeah. And your phenomena of returned flashes is not alone. For example, in the history we know in the Hesdalen Valley in Norway, where actually the couple of scientists were doing experiments with phenomena, they were also getting returned flashes as well. And of course, when you are flashing towards the object, through history we know the reaction can happen. For example, the Allagash incident, when the guys pointed the flashlight, so object came towards them as well. So this fits sort of with the historical data there. I wanted just quickly to go also with your really great story of the of the horseshoe object. So actually you saw it and you make and also people will be able to see sketches in your book. And like you said, 2 days again, phenomena repeated, and you were able to film it. And later, when the video was analyzed and enlarged, you actually recognized the horseshoe object from 2 days that you saw previously as well. So you could connect the video with, right?
Absolutely amazing. And, any skeptic who can say, this was just a speck of light, my notes show that I recorded seeing such a thing. I drew it on a paper, and then it shows up as a similar object later on in the video, which there was no way for me to know that it would. So, I mean, you can take this apart a million times, but it is what it is.
Yeah. And you said you heard sort of...
Here it is.
Yeah.
Here's the original drawing. Right here. This is what I saw.
Yes, we can see it, and it's also in the book. Have you ever considered actually to maybe publish in some form the original notes or maybe summary of those notes, or you are happy with the book? You think it covers also nicely?
I could. It all depends what kind of interest there is,
Yeah.
It is very hard to make some kind of headway. There's so much information and misinformation being given out by various groups and individuals. Every night, people are almost saturated by these UFO stories. So to present something that's valid, it gets lost.
In the noise. In the noise, yeah. Did you say that you actually heard a sound from the horseshoe object? Something that maybe, do you recall it was like a buzzing sound, or can you recall?
It was like, you're correct, similar to buzzing or droning, like some kind of a generator, electric generator passing by. But I really couldn't hear it too good because my engine was on. Because we were passing through an area it's called North Pacific Patch area. There's no wind, and you need to utilize your engine to pass through it, maybe about 700 miles, to continue with your regular winds through the trades.
Yeah,
otherwise, without an engine, you could be stuck there for a month.
Yeah, and let's just shortly go once again
the engine was on most of the time.
Oh, yeah. And let's just shortly go back to the front cover of your book, and that's absolutely explicit sighting. Do you maybe recall if the object... Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah. And these lights that you can see on the illustration, do you maybe recall if the object was rotating or just it was steady there in the sky? What were your feelings and when you were seeing this? I mean, this is really unique experience.
Yeah. Well, this is with I captured that moment when the first horseshoe actually flew by. This is what I see: this kind of a yellowish light on the bottom, a square contraption, and some kind of a little dome on the top, and a row of red lights up front. And there was a large yellow light in the back. This was an obvious manufactured object that flew over the boat at a certain height, maybe. I don't know how high, maybe 2,000 feet, 3,000 feet at the most, followed by a second boat, by a second object with the less red lights, but they were both horseshoes. So it wasn't something unified. It could not have been some kind of a military flight or somebody performing maneuvers, because they were dissimilar, yet very similar at the same time. And, these didn't stop. It didn't blink out, but these could have been the ones that we saw earlier, but were much higher up doing these kind of maneuvers. But this time they decided to come and present themselves more or less, or overfly the boat.
These are really explicit sightings with a great effect, I guess. So can we now continue from this point?
Yes. The voyage took 42 days to return to San Francisco. And aside from all the fantastic sightings, actually, if you go back to the ones where the object left, I believe, I've done some study, I believe that somebody's inside. Somebody's definitely inside of those objects. I believe that they can see you. There was a case in Texas described by Linda Moulton Hall of a woman who was abducted along with her daughter, and being inside of a craft, she noticed some kind of telescopic windows. To her, things looked bigger outside. It was almost like looking through a telescope.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's somebody standing over your boat or over you at night, looking very intently with the big nocturnal eyes, and if you point a flashlight or a beam of light at it, it could be an instant reflex, a reaction from the UFO, whoever is driving these units. Maybe they get scared. Maybe they take off because of such a reason.
Can we also cover the dream that your sailing companion Donald Begay had while you were sailing towards San Francisco? It seems it was a precognitive dream that will later play a huge role when he will return back to his home in Lukachikai.
Yes. This happened on the night of July 26th, early morning of July 27th. On July 27th, 5 in the morning, I remember waking up to relieve Don's at the helm, because we had these little shifts, anywhere from 4 to 8 hours. One of us would steer, the other one would sleep or rest or eat or cook or whatever had to be done. So at 5 in the morning, I woke up and ready to relieve Don from his post. And he told me that he had a headache. His eyes were bloodshot and he was very tired. And he also said that he saw something over the boat, high up, came behind the cloud, showed itself, and he left. So I said it was intriguing, and he went to sleep. I took over, and about noon, in 11 to noon, he's waking up. He made some coffee. I was tired myself already, ready to get my nap. He informs me that he had a dream, a really strange kind of a dream. I said, well, this sounds interesting. What did you dream about? Could you tell me? He told me that he was, in his dream, he's back home in his town of Lukachikai, and in his dream, he's with his brother standing on this little hill overlooking the town. They see this huge object full of lights, circular object, floating towards their hogan, a Navajo traditional home, 8-sided, with the door always pointing towards the sun, towards the east. And in his dream, this object showed itself up. It was almost like a advertising, a neon sign, changing lights, flickering. And it flew over the town towards the clouds someplace and left. And almost instantaneously in his dream, his brother had to go away someplace to look for some cat's eyes or whatever. So I told him, well, this is a very strange dream about Don. Would you please put this in the paper? And he sure did. He agreed. He came into the notebook, and it took him a couple of minutes. And it was almost automatic, like he almost channeled it somehow. And I will show you here the original drawing.
Yes.
If I can find it.
No worries.
Here. Here's Don's original drawing in the notebook.
Mm.
He sat down, he made a little circle, and smiled, and he drew this within a minute or so.
Okay.
And I kept looking at it, and it was very mesmerizing, interesting stuff.
Mm.
How it happened, when, everything is recorded here and in the book itself.
Yes.
And I did not know what to think about it, but later it proved to be of paramount importance in this case, and opened a great door towards my later investigations.
Absolutely. Yeah, and we can actually in finale cover that thing as well. But of course, when you arrived to San Francisco, your new journey started. How to report this to the outside world, your interaction with UFO organizations, media, which is again a story for itself, right? So, yeah. So yeah, maybe you can go through that as well. So we will get the overall picture in the end.
Yes, and of course, all these events I have recorded separately from the UFO events. I recorded them on a video and photos. So it's all there. It is nothing, not a hearsay. You can actually see us sailing through underneath the Golden Gate Bridge into San Francisco Harbor. And we dropped the hook in Richardson Bay, which is in Marin County. Very windy place. San Francisco summers are known to be cold. We arrived there. It was August. And I finally got off the boat, shaved a beard, ate something good again, after 42 days. So nice to be back on land. But already the notebook was full, and I had something to show it too. I had some videos. So I figured I had something to work with, and I was. But this time I was already. My mind is blown up. I got to talk about this. I got to tell somebody this is very important. What's going on? And I decided to again find a UFO organization. I heard about MUFON. I couldn't find any particular numbers. And the next step was try to contact the reporters. I tried calling television stations. Nobody would talk to me. I was, what do you mean? Or we're a Christian station, we're a Chinese station, we're not here. We'll be back next month. We can't talk to you. Leave a message. We'll call you back. So
yeah.
Finally, there's only one newspaper where reporters were interested.
Nice.
It's called Marine Independent Journal. And the guy didn't hang up the man I talked to didn't hang up the phone, and he wanted to hear more, and introduced me to a reporter by the name Jane Futcher. We made an appointment, and both Don and we went to the Marine Independent Journal's offices and talked to a group of reporters there. We showed them the videos, we showed them the notes, they photographed everything, and she knew about Jane knew about investigator Peter Davenport from Washington State, from
yes.
FORC, National UFO Reporting Center.
Yes.
Yeah. So he was the first official UFO person that I got in contact with, Peter Davenport. He advised me what to do. I mailed him the copy of my notes, copies of the videos later on. And then he gave me the number for MUFON in Phoenix once I arrived to Phoenix. He gave me a number for investigator Tom King. Who was,
I know Tom. Yeah.
Yes,
really nice guy.
Phoenix Lights events. Yes, in 1997. So we stayed in the Bay Area for several weeks, maybe a little over a month. Again, I put the boat in the storage, and Marine Independent Journal told me your story will be up shortly, within several weeks. So we'll let you know when that happens. So we made it to Arizona and met MUFON. Within several days, they came over. A man by the name of Jim Kelly. He led the group with Jason Ingraham and Judy Warrens, who later was state director of MUFON in Arizona after Sylvester left.
Mm.
So they took our story, they separated us in different rooms. I talked to Jason Ingraham, and Judy Warren talked to Don. We filled out their MUFON report. They recorded our voices. The entire story was laid out, and they left with promises that they'll get back to us. And all, that's all they can really take. Just take the report.
Yes.
That's all they could do. Not much more. And Don went back home to Lukachika. I stayed in Phoenix. A couple of weeks later, September 22nd, 23rd or so, he calls me. And he tells me, guess what, Neb? I said, what? What happened now? I saw the UFO over town with my family, and I took a picture of it. Broad daylight.
Now you were the skeptic.
Really no, I'm the skeptic now, yes. You must be joking. Well, would you please send me that picture? Could you? And he agreed to do it. Within several days, the pictures were in the mail. And I took them straight to King. It shows a small whitish object standing in almost the same direction over the Hogan, over the town, as his dream drawing. Tom King took it, and he said that's all he dealt with, little spots, and he produced some kind of a squarish, roundish type of object. It looked like an acorn in his computer, and gave me the copy of it. It's included in the book. But the sighting itself, Lukachkai, that lasted 40 minutes at 2 p.m. It was something described as being glass-like or metallic, extremely reflective. He saw it first, and he called to his niece, I believe, her name was Nina. She saw it. They both looked at it through binoculars, and later on he walked back home to grab he had a little throwaway Kodak type camera, and he took 3 shots. And you can actually see it as he's walking towards the location of the Hogan, taking different pictures, different perspectives. One was totally useless. I couldn't. It was very blurry. 2 you could work with, and those are the ones that King looked at. And there's only one today still survives in his possession. And I've sent you that picture, yes. Giuliano.
Yeah.
Somewhat enhanced too, so you can see something was obviously there for 40 minutes. Even Tom King agreed there's no wings. There are no balloon flights over there of any kind. And a balloon would not sit for 40 minutes stationary. It was a weather balloon. All the hot air balloons are in Albuquerque. People take them out for a few hours, during festivals. Or obviously not a satellite, not an airplane, not a bird. And later on, 4 years later, this is for 4 years I did not know what this meant, what the drawing could mean. But this happened to be a pivotal event here.
So just to summarize, as we previously discussed back in July 2000, while you were sailing towards San Francisco, Donald had a dream that he sighted a UFO in Lukachikai, where his home is, and subsequently, later after your arrival, he actually experienced such an event. He was able to photograph it, and later the investigator Tom King analyzed the photo. So you had some media exposure, some good, some bad, so case eventually faded away. However, you never dropped the experience, you never dropped the case. You continued to research, to find the new meaning in all this. You had your own eureka moment as well. So for then, maybe you can go a little bit into that. Maybe you can talk about your further research, possible sequel to your book, another one maybe. So, and how everything affected your life. I mean, this was a really absolutely unique experience, epic experience that you went through. And I think more people should be aware of it. And I hope this will go also in the chronology of more known cases. One aspect as well, You started to sail in the Pacific Ocean. 4 years later, southwest from San Diego, there was now known Tic-Tac Nimitz incident as well. Not exactly your area, but larger, broader area of Pacific where you were sailing 4 years before. So there are some things definitely that are reported that are now big part in the UFO history. But anyway, Neb, the mic is yours.
Yes, what is important to note here also is that the UFO sightings, these objects were seen before, during, and after our experiences in the same regions of Pacific. Over Hawaii, over Mexico, and California as well. So you can find this in Newfork, Pete and Davenport's site. So there's some verification there too. Sometimes they describe exactly the same things. Through MUFON, I made a connection with a very great lady, great researcher, late Dr. Ruth McKinley Hover, who was an abduction researcher. She was in contact with Dr. John Mack's organization, PEER. And I became a member of her group, experienced group, separate from MUFON itself. We went to different MUFON meetings. She kind of guided me to different congresses. I met interesting people. I met Bud Hopkins personally. I met Whitley Strieber, Stanton Friedman, many others, Jim Mars, all the large celebrities, investigators. I even had a small chat with Bud Hopkins. That was a memorable moment, which I will never forget. But regardless of what I read, what I heard, whom I listened to, what I saw, people's opinions, I was still intrigued with this. I wanted to continue the investigation, and I wasn't really aware that hypnosis was such a blurry subject. Some ufologists find it interesting and valuable. Others are kind of frown on it. And so many different opinions. But I wanted to continue. I wanted to undertake it and did this leg of investigation. And I underwent hypnosis sessions with Dr. Root, who's a very good expert, medical doctor, psychiatrist. She's been named of who is who in the White House. She's been very active with people in California over years. Very well respected member of UFO community, and she wasn't a beginner as far as hypnosis. So what happens here during a first hypnotic session? Now at the same time, I'm sending these video segments to Jeffrey Sanio from MUFON. Another very able investigator, to look at the videos themselves. And under the first session, first of all, I didn't think I was going to be hypnotized. It's not going to happen to me, but I was. Very soon, I'm losing her voice, and I find myself floating over the ocean, just my body, looking at the dark waves below me, and I'm looking upwards, and under this cloud, I see this little saucer-shaped object with some lights, and I'm floating towards it. Next thing I know, I'm surrounded by some kind of a green neon light in my mind's view. I hear some kind of commotion around me, like being enclosed into a little small car, something very cramped. And I've lost my cool. I almost had a heart attack. I could feel my chest, my heart beating hard. I was breathing very hard. And she brought me out of this session. She told me that my mind did not want to go there. Did something happen? Could it have happened? I have no idea. But a month later, I got a report about the vanishing UFO from Jeff Sanio, from Jeff Sanio.
MUFON guy.
And he told me that, he said, this is very anomalous. Nothing can disappear like that this fast. Even a small airplane light would take quite a few seconds to extinguish. This thing, you could see it in one frame. It was here. The next frame was totally gone, totally black. So I was intrigued about that, and I took the video frame to a video lab in Phoenix. It cost me $300 out of my own money. It was fantastic, and it shows a little saucer sitting there. Later on, I took the black frame where the saucer disappeared and started magnifying it. And after several levels of magnification, here comes a little tiny microscopic 4-pixel white speck of the same shape as the object before it disappeared. And this will indicate velocity of anywhere between 3,400 to up to 6,000 miles an hour in 1/30th of a second, because speed of video frame is 1/30th of a second. So this is how they vanished. They take off at that speed. I mean, this is something fantastic, and also confirms that something could have happened on some kind of level of me seeing the saucer. So for a number of years, I've just tried to understand where we are at, and I also more or less believed it to be some kind of a ET, extraterrestrial phenomena, somebody coming here and there. I also had some kind of experiences as a childhood. As a child, even back in Zadar in 1967, I had some strange night experiences. One particular night in the summertime, I woke up and was sitting on my bed. I noticed this little individual coming at me with dark eyes, and looking at me, seemed like he knew me, and I had to follow him. He was going through some body gyrations. I don't know if it was he or she. Next thing I remember, I find myself in a closet. I feel shoes and clothes falling on me, and my father woke up and said, "What are you doing there in the closet?" I said, "Dad, I'm looking for the eyes." He said, "It's always those eyes someplace." On a second hypnotic session, I find myself looking straight into the eye of an unknown being that seemed to know me, that seemed to care about me, and see, for a number of years, I did not know what's going on here. What's happening? Is this reality? Maybe it's reality on some kind of a different level. Was it something psychological? Was it something picked up from the culture? I had no idea until 2004, and this is where the Don's dream came into play, backed up by his picture and the sighting. It was recorded by others too. People have seen the same object appearing over 4 consecutive nights in Lukachkai. Something that would show up, fall down in almost the same location as a dream. So in 2004, that was a eureka moment. And how this came about, I was invited. By that time, my book already came out in 2002. So I was invited to speak to a small college in Saley, Arizona. And after the speech, they have a large library, a college library, with lots of materials of books, drawings, paintings, artifacts from different tribes, Apaches, Hopis, Navajos, Utes. And I more or less didn't know what I was looking for, just thumbing through the books. And there was one that attracted my attention. It was by Poli Shazma, professor of archaeology in New Mexico. It was called Pueblo Shields. And I kept leafing through the books, and I noticed some articles about large Pueblo shields, which are actually just pictograms, and they don't even exist, but they were maybe 1.5 meters in diameter, and they actually portray these little beings sitting inside of a shield.
Okay.
They could fly through the air, bring rain, according to legends, and so on. And then right next to the book, there was another one, a smaller book, Pueblo Shields. On the 8th page of this book, I find something that just totally flabbergasted me. one of the shields that he was writing about almost matches Don's dreams drawing. At that moment, my jaw just dropped, and I said, there's something to this here. And I started investigating it.
Mm-hmm.
What are the shield? What does this mean? And I started suspecting, see, there were dots and dash and lines inside of a shield, exactly like his drawings. This is the drawing of the object in Don's dream.
Okay.
The bottom part.
Mm.
And this is the side view. These I drew to organize it a little better. It was very difficult to draw this.
Okay.
There are three. See, there are 3, 4, 4, 4, 4, 3, 3, 3 little dots. Mm-hmm. Little dots line up in nine rows. So the bottom would kind of come here. You see, it would be something like this. You know.
Yeah.
That was very hard to draw. So I started investigating all this, both from artistic point of view, practical point of view. How does this fit? And it didn't make too much sense until I started viewing it in a different manner.
Mm.
I took an assumption: if this object had a bottom and he had a profile, roundish type profile, then if it was something manufactured, for example, then it must have other side. So when I took this into consideration and visualized that other side, a whole different type of animal emerged. Something like this.
Ah, okay.
This is the visible side that existed, and this is the invisible or imaginary part of an object. Mm-hmm. So when you put them two together, you got a whole thing. You got something that's actual, manufactured. Mm-hmm. At the same time, it corresponded with the shields. I started investigating, and I found a biblical allusion to a Psalm 142. And actually, that particular shield, ancient shield, also has 142 dots in 8 partitions. So it was something very similar to Don's drawing. It becomes very, very technical. But actually, to boil down this observation, this is something, the ancient shield, in a way, activated Don's drawing as some kind of a very complicated subliminal message. This was a communication, the drawing was, which I did not even know about for 4 years until the shield. It's almost like in cryptography. You need a key to open it. And this ancient shield, which I will be working, which I already have worked on, but it will be a subject of a new study. This is what opened a whole new vistas for me.
So to summarize, you recognized the patterns from the picture that Don drew based on his dream that we covered previously. So you started to correlate, to compare this with ancient symbols, Native American shields, and you started to recognize the shapes, the connections, and that is leading you towards a deeper sense what all this could mean. You are going beyond extraterrestrial hypothesis, right? You are sort of in the path of Jacques Vallée, right? Something similar. Yes.
After this, within a year or so, I started discarding the ET hypothesis as most unlikely to be behind these sightings. First of all, this seems to arrive in some kind of a time increments. In my case, it's 9 years. Each 9 years or so, these new discoveries would seem to pop up. And through the study of the shields, of the design, I have found the same certain numerical properties that are displayed here, but also in other historic elements found throughout the world. And then in 2009, I finally had a major sighting with a different friend in Arizona, which brought this home more or less. The sighting of a giant triangle and a giant boomerang type object seen over a small town of Hawaii, Arizona. And this is what will be a subject of my, it already is a subject of my study, but it will be a subject of a new book, new display for people. And this is something that is absolutely phenomenal. I think this is a very, very ancient phenomenon, and it talks to people through a mathematical view, through mathematical means, through numbers, through shapes, through geometry. It is something beyond our ken, more or less.
Yeah, you are trying to look at all this holistically to get a bigger overview, deeper overview. It's a big task. I wish you all the luck in the world, but you are very committed, you are very focused. I mean, the events from 2000 never left you. I could definitely see that. And I think the readers will definitely have some new perspective to see from you. So for that, maybe you can speak a little bit more now about the book. It was just republished, you're followed. I think it is a great way for audience to be introduced with your work, to again see the case that we just discussed. Many more details in the book, material, documents. It's a really great piece of work. So maybe you can say where the people can now buy the book, how they could get it, and something for them, whatever you would like to conclude.
Yes, at this time, the book was written in 2000, 2001, 2000. It came out 2002, so it was written at the level of my knowledge back then, of course. I was still referring to extraterrestrials and not knowing, pointing fingers more or less. So recently I republished a new publisher called Draft to Digital. It is available on Kobo, Barnes & Nobles, Apple Books, and many others, Scribd, Tolino. There's an ebook. Maybe later on, with some luck, I already put an application. It could be a paperback. So it's available. It's at your fingertips. I'm working, trying to compile. Already compiled. Now I have to analyze. I have to put this into some kind of perspective, because it's such a huge field, and I feel alone. This is something that requires an absolute attention from every aspect of our science, philosophy, to put this together, to help put it into perspective. There's so many pieces laying around, but the phenomena is ancient. I believe this is something that followed humanity from its first steps, even before Homo sapiens. And I will be trying my best to show this in some kind of acceptable format for people to see in the future, hopefully near future, 2-3 years from now. Thanks to your work and the work of others, I think we will be able to come closer to the door of realization and far more knowledge about this than people even imagine exists. And I think we're heading in the right direction.
Thank you so much, Neb, for your wonderful overview of your case, for your time, for your devotion. I wish to send a big greeting for you, to you, and also to your friend Don. He's very reserved, right? He's not appearing in media, but you are still in touch with him, right?
He's a realistic man. With me, this has become my something that must be overcome. This has overtaken me completely, like it does most people. For example, Whitley Strieber, when you listen to him, he has a tendency to change you. as a person.
Yeah, but you're still
Always better, I hope.
Yeah, but you are still meeting with Don, right? He's supporting you all the way, as I could see, and he's still right there with the events.
Yeah, we keep in touch. We call once in a while. Maybe once a year, I go for a visit. I go to such a beautiful area, you know, and he's still intrigued about this. And once in a while, he does have certain dreams and input towards this, some new drawings. And all this I will show in the future.
That's really nice. Thank you so much, Neb. I really enjoyed your entire overview of the case. Thank you for everything that you did, and hopefully more people will learn about your Pacific incidents from now on.